very young, well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, I'd say to me, you had one to forget. That's it.
Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
You know, he'd say to me, you had one to forget. Get over it. And that was it. So I'd dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. I mean, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well in the UK. You know, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. You know, when it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. You know how much. A lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, you know, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. You know, for the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah and Hiba, right? Or rather, it's your girl Sarah and Hiba right here on Relaks Radio. We have taken over the sunrise because even though it's raining outside right now, we're here to make sure that you are informed and you are updated about everything that happens, not just here in the UK, but in fact all over the entire world. All right. So we want to make sure that you are always informed, you're always updated about everything that happens. And we want you to share your thoughts and your opinions with us, all right? Because it's important for us that you do that. It's important for us that you share your thoughts and your opinions with us. So let's quickly head into our conversation, right? Because now we're actually going to be talking about, you know, the current status of COVID-19 here in England and what exactly the statistics are showing, what exactly the statistics are telling us, and whether we should really go ahead and take off our mask and pretend like the pandemic doesn't exist, or we should, you know, maybe take some of those precautions that we were taking. All right. So before we get into the conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can text us and call us, right? You can call us on, you know,
07852 473 473.
Yeah, you can call us on that number, and you can also follow us on our socials, right? Which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And also subscribe to us on YouTube, because that way you can always listen to the conversation. And if you find it hard to, you know, always go on social media, which I really doubt, you can download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. So just head on over to the Play Store, type Relaks Radio, or the Google, or rather the App Store, and type Relaks Radio and download the app. It's simple as that, and it's really, really easy. Okay, so right now let's actually talk a little bit about the current statistics in terms of you know, the situation here in the United Kingdom. All right, now you know, earlier Hiba and I, we were actually talking about vaccine hesitancy. We were talking about, you know, how there is this general idea among young people that they're fit and they're healthy, but currently in terms of the percentage of the adult population, 88.6% have gotten their first dose and 72.7% have gotten their second dose, right? Which I think is absolutely amazing news, right?
Yeah, completely, yeah.
because what it means is that we're definitely progressing in terms of in terms of vaccinations. We're definitely progressing in terms of making sure at least the entire population is vaccinated by at least the end of this year, hopefully. I got my fingers crossed because I want that to happen as soon as possible, and I know Hiba wants that to happen as well, because obviously we want to get
Go
back
out,
to normal,
have
right?
a social
And
life again. Yes, very
yeah,
much so.
right. And like something I always keep thinking is like, okay, so my teenage years weren't that great because I come from let's just say, brown parents are very strict. Okay, let's just put it that way. And my parents were so strict, so I didn't really get to go out much and whatnot. And now when I am finally allowed to go out, I have to sacrifice my 20s to a pandemic. Come on, it's not fair. I'm finally
It,
just getting my sense of freedom.
I know what you
um
mean. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was kind of opposite. My mom was trying to get me out the house because I'm a bit of a homebody. But now
okay.
that I want to be new, there's a pandemic on.
I know. And it's like so annoying because I used to be an extrovert and now I've been stuck at home so much. I just love staying at home. Like
It's
I want to go
amazing.
out, right? But also at the same time, I want to stay at home, right?
It's
So so much of mixed
comforting.
feelings with that, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it is what it is, I guess.
Mm.
So that's just in terms of the vaccination drive, right? So in terms of vaccination drive, we seem to be doing pretty well. But obviously, even though we were just discussing the adult population, earlier we were talking about this as well. There's a lot of hesitancy among the youth, right? And we discussed, we said that there's a lot of misinformation. And what else do you think is actually preventing young people from going and getting vaccinated, in addition to the misinformation? What else do you think is affecting them?
I think it's more than the misinformation. For me personally, I think it's really to do with the lack of information, like projecting. We had everyone before, obviously the 20s and the 30s and the 20s were last. However, it was just nobody really, like, I didn't know where to get information from. Like,
Yeah.
it was always the side effects that people were constantly complaining about. Even, I had people coming up to me telling me, oh my God, I got the vaccine the next day. I was just completely out of it, could not move my body. And that sort of fear into the unknown, especially because the COVID vaccine is so new. It was
New,
literally
yeah.
just, it was made quickly in a rush. You've got all these side effects playing that people are really quite terrified about, and how it's going to react to their bodies. And I think that's really one of the main concerns, especially for, I know it's one concern for me. It is the concern for a lot of young people who want to get back to their normal lives without having to be, like, halted in their tracks.
Yeah, that's really true, right? Because I feel like yeah, I completely agree to what you're saying as well. And in terms of side effects, I think there's very little to none, or like very
Yeah,
little to nothing information,
yeah,
or like absolutely zero information about how exactly our bodies react after getting vaccines. Because I think up until everyone started getting their COVID vaccines, and then they started getting body aches and fevers and whatnot,
yes,
people
yeah,
didn't really understand that when we get vaccinated, the reason we get sick is because you introduce this alien substance to your body, and your body thinks it's a germ, and they're trying to fight it, right? And like
yes,
that's a case of any, like, even if you take a normal fever, that's the case, right? That's why you have a temperature, right? And I feel like that is the kind of awareness and information that really needs to be out there, and that a lot of people need to understand as well. Because there's a lot of other, like, information, and I'm not saying it's not unnecessary, I'm not saying it's not essential, but obviously in terms of what exactly should be focused on, there is in fact a lack of focus on some of the things that we need to focus on as well, right?
yes,
And another reason as to why I think young people are so hesitant to get the vaccine is also because when this pandemic first started,
yeah,
every time you heard the news, you would always hear things like, oh, older people are more susceptible to the virus, right? Younger people are safer, right? And I think that sort of created this mindset in us to actually think, oh, you know what? the chances of us getting COVID is probably like 0 to 1. That's literally what we thought as well. And I think, like, obviously a part of that blame is the way it should be blamed on the way that they sort of portrayed this virus as well. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons as well, right? But again, that's just my opinion. But if you have any other opinions, you can share your thoughts with us. You can share your questions, opinions, whatever it is, with us on 078-52-473-473, right? Yeah, and I feel like something else that we need to talk about are these travel restrictions that were really eased yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, I generally feel like it's not the best thing to do at this point of time.
Yeah.
Right? What do you think?
I mean, I agree, but there are some parts of me that disagree, because I'm like, well, we have the vaccine, we have people are, wearing their masks. However, I do agree in terms of that, just because the majority of the UK has gotten their vaccinations, some have gotten 2 doses, that doesn't mean we can necessarily, like, it's like saying, when you're sick, you might be able to have one sweet thing. You don't want to open the entire floodgates. You don't want to eat an entire candy store. Like, we still have to take measurements. And I feel like opening the travel restriction is completely, like, it's quite silly in that this is gonna be taken advantage of. A lot of people are gonna spread the virus. A lot of people are gonna track and trace, can't, get all of that.
Yeah.
So we've got to, we're making this pandemic worse if we continue to open our travel restrictions and allow basically everybody to
sort of travel. Yeah. And I completely agree to that as well. I completely understand your concerns, because that's the first thing I thought of as well. But right now we're actually going to head into a small break, and after that we will be back to continue this conversation. So until then, make sure you stay tuned, all right, because we have a lot of interesting things to be sharing with you. So until then, make sure you stay tuned.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is, we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education, or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account, and then we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time, and we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what is happening. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million, and they're different. Right? They range differently from everyone, but and from country to country, to be fair. Different countries have different tax laws, so with different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the the sort of normal end. I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies and then you step up into different things.
Welcome back to the show. It is, or rather, it's your girl Sarah and Hiba here to basically share our thoughts and our opinions on what seems to be a never-ending pandemic. Really, it is what it is. That's what it feels like. We've been stuck in this pandemic for about almost 2 years now. And you know what else was crazy? What I was thinking is that it's almost. I mean, it's not almost. It's already August, right? We've spent so much of like time being stuck at home, and like time has moved by so fast that it's almost 2 years of COVID because it's already August. So that is a very scary thought as well, and that's what just like came into my head when I was thinking like, oh, we've spent 2 years in the pandemic, right? But that's just what we're here for. We're here to take away your pandemic blues and have an amazing conversation with you, share these amazing thoughts that we have with you, but also we want to hear your thoughts, all right? So make sure you text us on 078-52473473. You can call us as well. And you can definitely follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and subscribe to us on YouTube, while also not forgetting to download our app. Okay, so don't forget to download our app. Don't forget to share your thoughts and your opinions with us. Get in touch with us and make sure that you are make sure that you're taking part in this conversation. Okay, so you can join the conversation live and you can share your opinions with us as well. All right, but right now let's actually head back into the conversation we were just having, Hiba, which was basically about COVID-19. What exactly is happening here in the UK, right? And we were just talking about the travel restrictions and why, we don't really think it's the best thing to be doing at this point of time, and that's obviously, like you said, just because things are looking all that well, it's better not to test those limits because it means we just have to go through a whole other outbreak one more time, just like I haven't already had enough of this pandemic, right?
You already said,
yeah, so that's what it is, and that's why Hebe and I actually really want you to make sure that you take the necessary steps, that you wear your mask, you still socially distance, and you sanitize. I mean, I know I know there's no legal requirement for you to wear the mask, but having said that, wearing your mask, doing those things that you used to do before all of these were lifted definitely doesn't hurt, right? So heading back into this conversation we were having about these travel restrictions, something else that I wanted to actually ask you and talk to you was about how Boris Johnson actually has, he has been criticized for handling the pandemic quite badly, right? And I think that was pretty obvious from the get-go itself, because we know how much he underestimated the pandemic, right? And obviously the only time he actually paid any attention to it and realized the actual gravity and the impact of the pandemic was after he contracted coronavirus, right? So what exactly do you think that, okay, so when it comes to leaders, when it comes to, our politicians, what role do you think they have to play in terms of a pandemic? Like how should they react? What exactly should they do to make sure that their people are safe and protected?
I feel like a lot of the times, especially with the role of the prime minister, you understand that role is essentially caretaker for the country. So there are some things that you're going to do that we don't like locking down the country, making sure people get vaccinated, making sure people know there is misinformation about the vaccine and directing them to where they need to go about the vaccine, making sure that they're on point, essentially. However, I feel like Boris Johnson and his cabinet, I mean, it isn't just him, it's the people around him, have handled the pandemic so poorly, because they've been seeing it as like a popularity contest.
Definitely.
I feel like what they're doing is they're like overcome by the pressure of how many people are complaining, how many people are like whining, whinging, like you like, I want to get out of lockdown, blah blah blah. But you're the one who has to put your foot down. I mean, if you can't step up and handle the pressure and say no, there are like, this is a global pandemic. It's not just you.
Yeah.
This is something that's going on. It's taken like millions of lives. You have to. If we say you need to stay in lockdown, you need to stay in lockdown. It's what has to happen. But unfortunately, we have no other way.
Yeah,
What I mean?
and I feel like, what you said was really true as well. How this thing has all, been turned into some sort of popularity contest, right?
Yeah.
Because I just saw an article yesterday, and I was talking about it today as well, how Boris Johnson's popularity ratings have dropped to 3.4%, if I'm not mistaken. So he used to be, I think, about 39.2% or 39.6%, but right now it's 3.4%, right? And I was thinking, the thing with our leaders, or I feel like not just here in the UK, but in a lot of other countries, is, and I feel like even in America, right? It's considered, the land of democracy. Everything
Yeah.
democratic is all in America. There's always that, perception as well. But the thing is, sometimes when you don't put your foot down, when you keep letting your citizens do whatever they want to do, then things tend to go out of hand, right?
Yeah.
Which is what happened in America, and to some extent here as well, because people just started doing whatever they wanted to do, right? And especially in the middle of a pandemic, it's not like it's all fun and games for you to just
Yeah.
be, I mean, you can't be pleasing everybody at the end of the day, right? You always have to understand that as a leader, you're going to get criticism, you're going to get praise, but that's just how it works. And regardless of being a leader or not, that's just how life works in general, right? People are
Absolutely.
going to shout at you, people are going to praise you, and that's just how it works, right? So I agree to what you said as well. And I think another big problem that we saw in terms of our leaders is that they don't really lead by example, right? Because we had the most famous case of Matt Hancock, who was telling us, and he was the health secretary as well, he was telling us we needed to isolate, and we needed to socially distance and whatnot, and the next minute you see him kissing his colleague, right? Which you're thinking, it's in the middle of a pandemic, you're a health secretary, you're supposed to be leading by example, so why are you acting this way? That's
Totally. I thought it wasn't. I mean, funny story about that is I didn't know that was like during the heights of the pandemic. I thought that was like yesterday before it came out. Like, I was so shocked. They were like, he did this in like during the middle of the pandemic. It was so weird.
Yeah, and like it's just that is something that is there in our leaders as well. And that was the case for Boris Johnson as well, because how he was trying to avoid self-isolation when Sajid Javid actually tested positive for COVID, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And that's another big issue that we have here as well. Right. So in terms of, vaccination, we're doing pretty well. We are taking the steps that we have to take. We're doing what we have to do. But also at the same time, we kind of need our leaders to sort of put their foot down, like you said, and start being much more responsible and accountable in terms of how things are going right now. Because like you said, if we like, I know travel restrictions were eased and whatnot, but however, if we just suddenly open up the whole country and let everyone just come and flood into the country, we're just going to go back to square one, right? Then there's going to be no point in the fact that most of us are vaccinated, because we're just going to go back to how the pandemic was probably last year, when there was a huge influx in the NHS and whatnot, right? So so it's just that's what they have to do now. Hiba and I've had an amazing conversation, obviously, but it's time for us to actually head out of here. But don't worry, because we will be back here same time tomorrow as well, to share our thoughts, to share our opinions, to share our conversations. But until then, we really, really hope that you have an absolutely amazing day. So thank you for being a part of this show, and bye.
Bye, guys.